Hello lovelies and welcome back to my channel. So this week we are going to be talking about the goddess Freya, whether you spell it with a J or you don't. My daughter's name is Freya, and I have been planning on doing this video for years, but things would always come up when I was actually planning on doing it. So again, this is going to be more of a rambly type video, but that's when the most information comes out. So the thing I like about the goddess Freya is that she's balance, she's duality. Some might see it as contradictory, but it is what it is. It's all the cycle of life. So she's the goddess of love, but she's also the goddess of war. She's the goddess of death, but she's also the goddess of fertility. She's also a patron goddess of the witches, and she is a bringer who can boost magic and divination. She is also the keeper of the runes. So if you're somebody that's into runes or is really into Norse mythology, particularly liking to use just Norse gods and goddesses, she, along with Odin, are the two that you really... I'm not telling you what to do because I'm an eclectic solitary witch who used to be Wiccan, but though historically those would be the two that are like the top of this chain. So she was one of the most popular, and still is, deities of Norse mythology who lived in Asgard, home of the gods. No, for any of you who are nerds like me and are into comic books and the films that go along with them, I know some of you might be thinking right away of Loki and Thor. Of course, I said Loki first because, well, but I mean, those comic books and characters obviously derived from this. The popular period of her worship was between 700 AD and shortly after Christianity, once that kind of started taking over into that area as well. Not only is she everything I mentioned already, but she's also the queen of the Valkyries. And she is called the most beautiful of the goddesses. She did have a special necklace that she wore, and she was known to ride a chariot with two cats at the front. She was said to have this beauty that was seen as the most vivid colors that of nature had to offer, and that her glory could be seen and felt while looking at the moon and the stars at their brightest. Her love and compassion could be reflected in the face of a new mother looking at their newborn child. She embodies everything that is feminine, but like I said, she's also a goddess of death and war, so she also has that masculine. So that's another reason why I find her to be very fascinating and very important, and is a goddess that I call upon because of that balance. She's strong, assertive, passionate, and she empowers women with an X, I'm going to say, for these purposes, because Freya is a goddess that people who identify as any gender can embrace. She is the essence of sexuality. So again, a lot of this Aphrodite, Venus type energy can be found in her, and Rhiannon. She was once seen as promiscuous, yet she was also monogamous at the same time. It all depends on where you're getting information from and how you want to embrace her. Basically, sex positivity, you know, like that's the best way to say it. She is a very deep and complex goddess, so I'm not going to spend much time discussing her as a being. because she's so complex. Like I said, she's the goddess of love, the goddess of war, the goddess of death, the goddess of fertility, keeper of the ruins, the patron goddess of the witches. She embodies so much. She was open sexually. She was open with who she was. And, you know, you find a lot of this kind of stuff as a trend in some of the Norse mythology, gods and goddesses, even though there is a negative side to it these days, with some Odinites being racist, etc. It kind of is, I don't know, I find it to be a little hypocritical for what you actually discover with these goddesses and gods. Besides just Freya, like the actual Loki, not the comic book Loki, but the actual Loki, you know, many would say is pansexual, or, I mean, and gender queer, and not just that, he could change into other animals, all that kind of stuff. So it's almost as if Old Norse was very open-minded in many ways that our current society is just beginning to really embrace. And that's another positive of Freya, because of the sex positivity, the complex nature of who she is. And that's why I also was like, this is who I have to discuss during Women's Month, because she's such a powerful being. And like most people, she is not just one side or one thing. She is very deep, and there's more to her than just one thing. She's not just the goddess of love and beauty, even though she's known to be so beautiful, as I mentioned. She's not just the goddess of love and fertility. She's not just the goddess of war. She's not just the goddess of death. She's not just the goddess of witches and magic. You know, she's all of this. So before I go into how you can worship her and what ways you can bring her into your life, I am going to mention too that because of this complexity found within her, she was a huge threat and issue when the Christians were trying to convert pagans to Christianity. Because as we know, they often would, you know, change Christianity just a little bit to try and bring in these people to follow their new religion. And it was difficult because Christianity is inherently patriarchal. And because she was this queen of witches, and because she could control magic, divination, fertility, love, war, and death, she had a great deal of power, and that empowered women at the time as well. So they found it very difficult to try and get females to convert. So they had to start to make Freya look like this horrible, sinning whore, for lack of better words. And they didn't, because she was seen as a role model to many young girls within the community, they started to indoctrinate this idea of her being full of sin, that a woman should not be promiscuous, a woman should not own their sexuality, a woman should not have the power to be able to do the things that she did. A woman's place is not in battle and to be strong. So yeah, they had to do a lot of work to essentially destroy and denounce Freya. And then people that were still pagan at the time during this transition period started to become more and more patriarchal, and started to also bring that into the paganism as well, that Freya was not the best role model, that Freya was not somebody to worship. And like I said, this was definitely towards the end of the big pagan era before Christianity fully took over. So there's a whole bunch of stories out there about this necklace that I mentioned. And like I said, I don't want to spend too much time going too deep into her story. Like, I know with my Rhiannon video, I basically just told the story, like her love story. I want to focus on how you can bring her into your life and her symbols. So I'm just going to mention, okay, so it's a magical amber necklace. I will try and find one of the many stories out there that might be online and put it in the links below as well, so you can get some more background on that. She also wore according to some, a feathered cloak. And like I said, she would go through the sky on a chariot that was drawn by cats. Some artwork and some stories say it was more of a big boar, typically gold, but usually it was Freya and the two cats. Which brings me to some of her symbols. So if you want to bring her into your life more, and bring in some of that energy and empowerment and etc., cats are the first of the animals for symbols, then birds, which again would probably go along with the feather cloaked, and then the boar. Those are her sacred animals. She also is a goddess that you can work with the moon, and with arts. So if you are a creative person, especially with the poetry, she has been called upon as a muse for poetry. So like I said numerous times, love, war, those are the two big ones. Fertility, death, witchcraft, divination, now the moon, poetry, art, maternity, like being a mother in general. Symbolic flowers for an altar can be daisy and primrose. If you want to give fruit as an offering, strawberries. And then colors are red and silver. Sometimes people also bring in turquoise or an amber color due to the necklace. If you have a child, or you are pregnant, or you trying to get pregnant, calling upon Freya, just like with Demeter, but Freya, especially when you're trying to become pregnant or you have a child and you want to protect them and call upon for blessings and bring upon them a protection of love, she is a goddess to work with. Also, if you're getting out of a really bad situation or you just want to be more empowered, she is a goddess for women to call upon for empowerment, just like with Lilith. Yeah. So if you would want to boost your magic, she is also a goddess that you might want to call upon during that ritual. Also, working with runes when you're working with Freya is a great thing to do as well. And if you're learning about runes and maybe struggling, or when you're actually utilizing them for divination purposes, call upon Freya. Like, you know, some people just call upon their guides, or they call upon the fairies, or whatever it might be. Call upon Freya. I'm also going to include in the description a link to a ritual to honor Freya. Now, this link will also have some other information, some stuff that I touched on as well, because it was where I actually found some of the symbols. But it's a pretty easy one. It's not, you don't need many things. You'll just need strawberries, daisies, or primrose, and some red and silver, and a silver candle to be able to do this particular ritual. You don't really need to go and buy a ton of stuff. So I will have that below. So some other ways that you can work with Freya is giving appropriate offerings. So if you're not going to do like the ritual that I just mentioned before, some other offerings you can give are mugwort, flax, jewelry, particularly necklace, especially if there's an amber crystal. And if it's not a necklace, just having amber. Perfumes, apples, strawberries, as I mentioned before. Any act of love can also be an offering. I'm just looking at my notes. I'm going to be real with you. Any act of love is an offering to Freya. So if you want to bring in that strong feminine energy and independence, doing something kind and caring for her. Love songs, dancing, doing divination, working with runes. Yeah. Having a sacred altar space within your home somewhere that if you want one up at all times. Candles, incense, offering bowls, cups, and runes. So the candles, most likely you want to stick with the silvers and the reds. In your offering bowls, you're going to want mugwort, primrose, daisies, things of that nature. And then obviously photos of Freya or a statue of Freya, images or statues of cats, and if not cats, birds, boars, even rabbits, especially if you're working with the fertility aspect, and the moon. So also keeping a vase of fresh flowers at all times that are pertaining to that particular season to work with her. Also reading more in depth about her. So like I said, I'm not going deep into her story because that would be an hour-long video and probably a few of those hour-long videos, because she is a fierce goddess who teaches witchcraft and has such a rich, and like I said before, complex history and story. I would really recommend just reading about her. There are numerous books out there that are absolutely great about her. You can go online and read pages upon pages of stories about her. But like I said, I will include at least one regarding the necklace. Learning runes is another way that you can work with Freya. So if you haven't already, and I've mentioned this already numerous times in the video, but working with runes, learning runes, using like the elder, I can never say it. I'm good at reading, and I've been almost 20 years practicing, but the elder Futhark runes. Don't hate on me because I can't pronounce stuff. I'm a reader. So using those, and you can also use them to communicate directly with her. If you don't want to use runes, it's okay, because she's just the goddess of divination in general. So if you're somebody that just uses oracle or tarot cards or a pendulum, you can still communicate with her and call upon her to help you with those guidances, because she is the goddess of divination. It's just the fact that with the type or the area in which her story derives from, it was runes that they utilized. Moon magic. So again, using her during the moon, especially the full moon and the new moon, because of the magic and the divination and the manifestation, and also to get your independence back and to become more empowered. The time to release and the time to call upon for what you want and do that type of magic, those are the best times of the moon to be working with her. However, you can work with her in each phase. Just utilize it appropriately for the aspect of what she represents for that particular phase of the moon and what you are trying to do. Growing plants. So having a Freyja little part of your garden can be good, or even within your home. So obviously some of these plants you can't, and that's why having the fresh flowers on an altar dedicated to her, it might be your best bet. But growing primrose, growing daisies, growing mugwort, growing hemp, yes, hemp. And when you do them, dedicate them in Freya's name. You do a ritual for her. And whenever you want to be empowered or you want to call upon a different aspect of the goddess of love and war, go to that area of your garden. And then you can utilize these particular plants in charms, rituals, spells, etc. So, yeah. Friday the 13th. So, before I get into that, I'm going to say Friday is also called Freya's Day. It translates to Freya's Day. And also, Friday is represented by Venus and is also the best time to do love magic. Whether it's love regarding yourself, a child, a family member, a relationship, etc. That's Friday. So, if you want to do something for Freya, or where you want to bring in some of her power and call upon her, Friday is going to be the best day, especially if you're not looking at the moon cycle and you're just more looking at, okay, I want to bring more self-love and empowerment to myself. There you go. But also, Friday the 13th is a powerful time to connect and honor her. Her sacred number is also 13, which stands for the 13 lunar cycles within the year. So when we have a Friday the 13th, that is perfect for calling upon Freya and honoring Freya, because, like I said, Friday already translates to Freya's day. It is the best day to do love spells. And 13 is her number due to the cycles of the lunar cycles. What's also interesting is it's not uncommon to have a full moon or a new moon on a Friday the 13th, because those can happen any day of the year, right? So if you have a new moon or a full moon, or the specific phase of the moon that you are wanting to work with for whatever ritual you're doing, if the height of it lands on a Friday the 13th, that is going to be your most powerful day to work with Freya. Going through a spirit journey to empowerment and self-love. Also meditations and spiritual journeys that will get you into a trance, into other realms, where you can actually talk to Freya and meet her face to face, as she is the patron goddess or queen of the witches. So that's all I'm gonna really give you for Freya. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I know I was very low energy today, and I'm sorry for that, but I really do, really do love the goddess Freya, or I want to name my daughter Freya Love. I do really recommend people to work with Freya. She, like I mentioned before, was one of, or is actually, according to some, the goddess out of all areas in which Christianity came and took over in pagan areas, that the church desperately had to work very, very, very hard to try and get rid of, and to either erase her name or completely degrade who she was and call her a sinner and misrepresent her. So, you know, a lot of us say Lilith is this goddess that is representative of feminism and empowerment. But she's the dark goddess for that. But Freya, she's the light. So call upon Freya, honor Freya, and work with Freya in whatever way you can. And like I said, an honor ritual will be below, as well as a story about her necklace and my whole playlist of the goddess empowerment videos. And with that, I love you all, and thank you again for watching my channel. I know I haven't been very consistent in the past few years and not having the same energy as normal, but don't worry, I'm back. Just not as often as like 3 years ago, but more often than the last couple of years. So with that, please check out my shop. Please check out the links that I'll have below regarding Freya, and I'll see you next time, and blessed be. Bye.